Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this special remembrance service. My name is Jeannie Hale, and I'm the supervisor of the Department of Spiritual Care at WakeMed Hospital. This is the second year we've come together virtually for the Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Service. I'm hoping that even though we aren't able to be with you in person in the way we have in years past, perhaps some of you who would not have been able to participate otherwise are joining us from your home this evening. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know that you can find a link to the program for this service in the description box under the live stream video. You can click the link to open the program and follow along with the service. In the program, you'll notice that at 7 p.m., we will light a candle to join in the International Wave of Light. And then later in the service, we will light smaller candles, giving time for you to light a candle and say aloud from wherever you are the name of the child or children you are honoring this evening. There will be a time following the invocation for you to locate candles to light along with us, if you would like to do so. This evening, we are taking time out to honor, remember, and bear witness to the beloved children who were in our lives only briefly, yet touched our hearts forever. To give you some history about how this special Remembrance Day came to be, in 1988, President Ronald Reagan proclaimed October as National Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. He stated, "When a child loses his parent, they're called an orphan. When a spouse loses their partner, they're called a widow or widower. When parents lose their child, there isn't a word to describe them." This month recognizes the loss so many parents experience around the world. In 2002, the Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day campaign began when Robin Baer, Lisa Brown, and Tammy Novak petitioned the federal government, as well as the governors of each of the 50 states, to recognize October 15, 2002, as the first observance of Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day. As a further effect of the American campaign effort, a resolution supporting the goals and ideals of National Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day was passed in the House of Representatives on September 28, 2006. Since then, it has been proclaimed annually by all 50 states. This day focuses on raising awareness about pregnancy loss and infant death. On October 15th of every year, people from all over the world take time to honor and acknowledge pregnancy and infant deaths, supporting one another and sharing stories, tears, hope, pain, and love. It's been said that grief is not a sign of weakness, nor a lack of faith. It's the price of love. This evening, we join together to hold space for that grief, to be connected with others who understand your pain and struggles, and to affirm that you are not alone. So welcome to you all, and thank you for being here. We are deeply honored to be sharing this sacred time and space with you.
Good evening, I'm Jordan Tripp. I'm the supervisor for decedent care here at WakeMed Health and Hospitals. Please pray with me. Holy One, as we enter this time of remembrance, may a spirit of peace and comfort be found in this place and in the places of those who are mourning. The questions that don't have answers, the lingering void, the unfulfilled hopes and dreams, the anger, the sadness, the memories. We bring them all into this place. God, meet us in this space as we gather together in community in this time of remembering our loved ones. Amen.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Koch, and I'm staff chaplain at Cary Hospital. I'd like to share a reading this evening from Aldine Sullivan entitled Birthday No More. This empty space and time in my heart is yours. It is the space for yearning, the space for memory. The day your light came into this world, a day of sorrow for what was lost, birthdays that will never be. This day touches the depths of my grief and loss. This day touches a wound and makes it new. God of generations, be with me as we remember what was and what might have been. I miss you.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Pershcante. I'm the director of the Neonatal Intensive Care Unit. Some of you may know me by my other moniker, Dr. P. Thank you for inviting me to share with you this evening. Some people come into our lives, leave footprints on our hearts, and we are never quite the same. These words, which are the opening stanza of the poem Some People by Flavia Whedon, once hung in the NICU. That was several renovations ago, but these words have stuck with me since. I often think of them when a baby dies because even though their feet may be tiny, those little babies in the NICU can leave big impressions in our hearts, especially the ones whose lives are far too short. Working in the neonatal intensive care unit, we have our share of infant losses. They are never easy, and every one of them leaves behind a brand new set of footprints. I would like to tell you about one of those sets of footprints this evening from a long time ago. I'm remembering back to when I was still in training at Wake Forest, way back in the 1990s. I remember there was a couple who was pregnant with their second child. They had been given an ominous diagnosis. The prenatal ultrasound findings suggested that their baby would likely be born alive, but that his lungs would be too small to deliver enough oxygen to keep him alive for more than a few hours after birth. When the day came for his birth, I remember going to his mother's labor and delivery room. You could feel the somberness hanging in the air, but other than that change in atmosphere, it was pretty much like every other delivery room. When he was born, he cried like most babies, and his father cut the cord. Looking at him, it was not immediately obvious that there was anything all that wrong. But it soon became clear. Despite crying lustfully and us applying oxygen, he did not turn pink. Per his parents' wishes, we put him on a high-frequency ventilator in the NICU, trying to give him a chance to get his oxygen levels to rise. The machine made a rapid thump, 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 thump sound as it delivered 10 tiny breaths of pure oxygen into his lungs every second. But despite that technology, his oxygen levels still would not come up. Ultrasounds and x-rays confirmed the prenatal findings that his lungs were just too small, and he would not be able to survive even with the machines. I remember going back to his mother's room and talking to his parents, and I remember us discussing that it was time to remove the machine. Rather than dying in an incubator, attached to a ventilator and other noisy machines, we could give him a chance to be held and feel their love of their touch before he died. We discussed how they would like that to go and what things they would like to do to create memories for the short time that they had with their son. Working with his nurses, we removed him from the machines, removed the wires, we carried him to a room. With him still breathing. We tried to help them make all those memories. I remember them holding him and taking family photos and saving a lock of his hair. One of the things that stands out to me about that day is that they thanked me shortly after he died. And I remember not knowing how to respond to someone feeling grateful for anything at all in that awful moment. On the one hand, I was there learning to do a job as a trainee that I loved, and that did not require any thanks. And on the other hand, I realized I was participating in the most sacred of human experiences, the birth and death of a child. And in that moment, I was just simply doing the most human thing I could do to be there with him. With their thanks, they taught me that just being there could be a gift. They taught me other things as well. I remember the next day, I was saying goodbye to his parents when they left the hospital. And his mother told me how awful it was to be wheeled past the newborn nursery with no baby in her arms as she was discharged from the hospital. I vowed to try to avoid that sort of logistical oversight in the future. Had he been able to survive, there's someone to be in his 20s now. I'm sure they still think about him. I wonder, do they know I still think about him too? I wonder if they know that I remember that they named him Jordan. I wonder if they know that the other hospital personnel likely still remember him as well. These are the footprints that stay with us. They are powerful moments. They live in our hearts and memories. They can be teaching moments as well. I still think of Jordan when I think of how things should go and sometimes how things should not go, like having his mother in a location where she has to be wheeled by the newborn nursery. I've become a little wiser from every set of footprints. And it never gets any easier. I used to think that maybe it would someday, but I'm thankful it does not. Some things are supposed to be hard. This past year has added still more footprints on our hearts, and we're never quite the same. To those of you that are experiencing the intense grief of having lost a life so short, I want you to know that you are not alone. The grief you feel is the love for your child. That love never goes away. The doctors and nurses that are with you when you lose a child can feel that love. It permeates the room and leaves footprints behind.
Beautiful girl, where are you? Those words are the last line of the poem read at the service for my daughter, Providence Faye Orsbit. That line captures everything for me. You are my beautiful girl. You are perfect in every way. From the dark tuft of silky hair to your tiny mouse ears. You have a cherub's rump and long, delicate toes like your mother. But where are you now, beautiful girl? I look for you everywhere. In family photos, at the dinner table, in school plays. You should be on the beach, running with your cousins, not cremated in a box on a shelf in my bedroom. You should be tugging on my leg to have me read you another book, not tenuously existing as a collection of memories and digital photographs. You should be here, now, with me, with us. Sometimes I think I can see you in the way all the women on your mother's side twist up their mouth when they get mad. Sometimes I can hear you in your brother's uncontrolled cackling laugh. Sometimes I can feel you when I'm walking and the sun warms up the forest floor and all I can smell are the pine needles mixed with rich earth. And for a moment, I forget myself. You are in all of these places, in all of these things, and in none of them. Trying to have a relationship with you is hard because you are not here. I can't do the things with you that I can do with your brothers. I spend time with you. Lord knows you're with me in my thoughts constantly. But it's not the same. I'll never know what your favorite color is, or what makes you laugh, or if you like gymnastics like your mother. I'll never see you learn to walk. I'll never see you walk across the stage at graduation. I'll never see you get married or meet your children. I will never see you triumph, and I will never see you fail. And I'll never see you on most days, somewhere in between. Your death has turned years of hopes and dreams into a huge pile of nevers. Sometimes it feels like the only thing I have to hold on to, the only thing that's real, is my grief for you. But grief is such a bewildering place. It's maddening and isolating. If grief is love with no place to go, then for me at least, the antidote to grief is gratitude. I forget my pain when I remember the nurse who washed your body so tenderly. She understood what a treasure you are. I forget my troubles when I think of the chaplains who prayed over you. They spoke to God when I could not find the words. And I smile when I remember all the friends and family who filled the picnic shelter at Umstead Park in late November for your memorial service. They showed us that we were not alone. For some of you tonight, you are new to this journey. Your pain is hot and raw and deadly sharp. The world seems like it's filled with 1,000 tiny daggers that can jump out of nowhere at any time and bring all the pain flooding back. That's certainly what it felt like to me. I'm almost 4 years into my journey. I haven't gained any magical knowledge or insights to comfort us here tonight. But I will say this. I don't have any answers, but I will sit with you in silence. I don't know why your child died, but I will cuss and scream and smash dinner plates with you and help you clean up the mess. I don't know why our beautiful children aren't here with us, but I would be honored to hear your story and say your child's name. My beautiful girl is Providence Faye Orsman.
My name is Jennifer Alexander, and it's an honor to have the opportunity to share my story with you on the National Remembrance Day for Baby Loss. I'll start by telling you a little bit about myself. My husband and I are both Raleigh natives. We got married in 2007, and we have 3 children, an 11-year-old daughter named Marguerite, a 5-year-old son named Branch, and a son named Griffin, who has been in heaven for 8 years. I'm currently a stay-at-home mom, but I often reflect on a career assessment that I took before college to find out which direction I should consider. I had always wanted to be a doctor, so I circled every answer I thought would produce those results. Needless to say, I was horrified when I found out my calling, a funeral home director. I don't remember if I laughed or screamed, but many events in my life that have circled back to this. I worked for Carolina Donor Services. I even met my husband at a funeral. But my greatest joy has been in sharing our son's story with other grieving families and serving as a support to others. 1 in 4 families has experienced the loss of a baby, and I want to start by saying how sorry I am that your lives have been divided into the before and after. I am so sorry that life will never be the same. The loss of my son broke and reshaped me. There are a lot of things I miss about the person I was on June 2nd, 2013. But there's also a lot I've discovered in the aftermath. Surviving this will likely be the hardest thing you'll ever have to do. At times, it will feel virtually impossible. You'll wonder how a human being can survive so much pain. Your arms will ache for an ache for which there are no words for a lifetime. But with each morsel of unspeakable pain, there is love, an abundance of love, a love so strong and powerful it will buoy you. Even if you don't believe in hope, not even a little bit, it will be there to light the way for you. At times, you won't realize your path is lit. The darkness feels all-consuming when you're in it. But know the light is there surrounding you now. Know that you're guided by all of us who have survived this. We are beside you, just like your child still is. My pregnancy and childbirth story begins when our daughter was born on October 12, 2010, at 37 weeks after a normal and healthy pregnancy. Deciding to have a second baby was a huge step for us as we both grew up as only children. In January of 2013, we learned that we were having a boy. We were over the moon excited, and we decided that he would be named Haywood Griffin Alexander Jr. after my husband, and we would call him Griffin. I started dreaming of what it would be like to be a boy mom. I imagined tripping over dinosaurs and Lego collections, the basketball goal at the end of the driveway, the possible frog collection, and the superhero bed sheets. I envisioned a son who would one day tower over me with the strength of a man, but the heart of a boy. I already knew what to expect with childbirth, so I spent most of those 9 months in nesting mode. Griffin's nursery was a nautical theme, and I discovered how much joy could be found in discovering the perfect sailboat accessory. I filled his closet with monogrammed bibs and johns and Burt claws. I found so much joy in even purchasing the necessities like diapers, Desitin, and tiny socks. I took Marguerite on many of these shopping excursions and included her in preparations. She picked out a bunny to give Griffin when he was born. I bought her a big sister dress, and I also bought myself a light blue housecoat for hospital pictures. I was probably the most prepared mother in Raleigh. During this time, I often imagined what would be the happiest moment of my life. Marguerite walking in the room to meet her brother and holding both of my children in my arms for the first time. My dreams would be complete 1 month before my 30th birthday. Haywood and I installed the car seat in the car. We went out on our last date before Griffin's impending arrival. We packed a suitcase, and I even made a list of all the babies that would be in our playgroup. I was past 37 weeks. Griffin was safe, and I was on top of the world. At 38 weeks and 3 days, Haywood and I were in bed watching TV when I felt a sudden and sharp pain in my back. I thought, this is it, labor's starting. However, I went to the bathroom shortly afterwards and saw bright red blood and knew that something was wrong. We immediately called the ambulance, and they arrived quickly. Once I was in the ambulance, the paramedic asked if I needed to push, and I said no. He responded, I know you want a Doppler right now, but we don't have one. For some reason, I hadn't thought about Griffin's heartbeat. I was preparing for what I thought would be an emergency C-section. Panic set in as I jiggled my stomach and trying to get Griffin to move. My placenta was positioned across my stomach, so I never felt big movements with him like I did our daughter. Part of me wanted to scream to cut me open right then and there to save him, and part of me said to stay calm. Nothing bad happens at term. I was taken to WakeMed triage, and a familiar face brought me calm. My nurse Samantha was the same nurse who had coached me through Marguerite's birth. She checked my cervix and commented on the amount of blood and said that sometimes it could be a normal part of labor. I held my breath as she placed the Doppler on my stomach. I can still see her concerned expression as she pulled up the Doppler and tried for the second time. Honey, she asked me, when was the last time you felt him move? I cried, I don't know, as she placed the Doppler again and again, only to be met with silence. I started screaming her name as the realization sunk in that our son had died. I don't know the exact sequence of events that came next, but I remember staring at the clock on the wall and praying that I was still asleep, and it was a terrible nightmare. Dr. Smith came in with the ultrasound machine and pointed out Griffin's heart. He said, this is his heart and there's no heartbeat. The world fell out from beneath me as my husband collapsed against the bed. I couldn't remember how to breathe, and it felt like an elephant was sitting on my chest as my blood pressure rose to levels twice my normal numbers. I thought that if I closed my eyes, I would die too. If my child had died inside of me, something must be terribly wrong with my body. I wondered if my organs were shutting down. It didn't make sense for Griffin's heart to stop beating while mine kept going. I thought that stillbirth was something that only happened in developing countries. The chances of it happening to your child are so small. I thought it was something I was never going to have to worry about because it wasn't going to happen to me. I can still see Samantha's face as she held my hands in hers. Tears streamed down her face as she said, I'll never forget you. These words were simple, yet they have resonated with me years later. Her compassion moved me. Sometimes the greatest love comes from bearing witness to someone's experience. She was telling me, I see you and what you're going through. You are not alone. What's happening to you matters to me. Her focus was not to make the pain go away. She knew that was impossible, but rather show that she was standing beside me in support. I was scared to hear that a vaginal delivery would be my safest and recommended option. How would I labor and give birth to my deceased baby? The labor and delivery hall is supposed to be the happiest place on earth. I heard women in labor and babies crying as I was wheeled to a room at the end of the hallway. I was in labor for 8 hours. I was numb and in shock. It's almost as if God picked me up to cradle me in his arms, because I don't know how else I survived that night. At 8 in the morning, I was ready to push. There were no lights, minimal drapes, and not a sound in the room. Griffin was born at 8:18 on June 3rd, 2013. It was the most anticipated moment of my life, and it will forever be the most painful. Having the best and worst moment of your life share the same space within your heart is indescribable. Dr. Bass asked if I wanted him placed on my chest, and I asked if I could have a minute to collect myself. I questioned, does he look okay? The nurse responded, yes, he's beautiful. I turned to my left where she was standing by the scale, and I took the first look at our son. He was even more beautiful than I had imagined. I was overwhelmed with pain and sadness, but also great love and pride, just like any mother after giving birth. He was 9 pounds, 2 ounces, 22.5 inches long. The nurse placed him in my arms, and my first words to him were, I love you, Griffin. He had a head of fuzzy dark hair and full cheeks that I gently kissed over and over again. He was perfect and so still. My heart was aching for his eyes to open and for him to make the sweet sounds of a newborn. I held his feet in the palm of my hand as I memorized their length. I wrapped his fingers around mine as I studied every part of God's fingerprints. My husband leaned over and cradled us both in his arms. We felt uncomfortable after Griffin's birth with the unknown of what would come next. We wondered how much time would we have with him. I quickly decided that as long as we were in the hospital, I wanted him with me. I had been primed to nurture and to protect him. We were taken to a postpartum room where we were introduced to our postpartum nurse named Christina. As she wrote her name on the whiteboard, she also wrote, Griffin is beautiful. In one simple sentence, she told us that she saw us. She saw him. Our son was not the elephant in the room. He was the gift. Christina helped us feel more comfortable by exuding quiet confidence. She held Griffin and cared for him with a sacred tenderness. She treated him like a living baby, asking us if she could put a hat on him and keep him swaddled. She arranged for pictures with a hospital photographer. She had foot molds made for us, and she gave us a memory basket and explained its thoughtful contents. These keepsakes mean the world to me. It's all I'll ever have is physical proof of his existence to go along with my memories, that he was here and that it's not all a dream. We never felt pressured to leave Griffin. Christina encouraged us to spend the night, and from that moment on, we cherished every second. The 24 hours we had with Griffin were a painful hourglass. Morning came and we knew that we had to say goodbye. I sat in a rocker and sang a lullaby to Griffin as I held him for the last time. Christina traded shifts with someone so she could be there for our discharge. I don't think that I could have handed him over to anybody else. I placed him in her arms and she walked out of the room with my heart. When she took me to the car, we both cried and she gave me a big hug. We have since reconnected and she will always be a special person to me. No words can describe the pain of going home without your baby and taking the empty car seat into the house. Marguerite looked at my smaller belly and empty arms and asked me, Mommy, where's Griffin? Will Jesus bring him back home to us? For months, we had prepared her for the arrival of her brother, and she had already become the best big sister. Talking to him, hugging my belly, and giving my belly button her favorite snacks. As I shared the news that shattered her heart, I vowed to be strong for her. I had to learn how to keep moving forward. I specifically remember walking to the mailbox one day. My senses felt different. I could hear the rustling of the leaves, I could feel the warmth of the sun, and I could hear birds chirp like never before. I felt like I was emerging from a cocoon, and I had to learn how to navigate my new world. It's awkward to navigate life when yours has been turned upside down and you have to rediscover who you are in the midst of it all. I decided to attend an area support group called Parent Care, which is a WakeMed bereavement program. The facilitator has been a beacon for many families in the baby loss community, and this group was invaluable to me as I learned how to navigate my new world. The facilitator and other families in the group received me, they loved me, and they carried me through. I'm sad for the reason we met, just like I'm sad to know that many watching share this connection. But nevertheless, we met because our children brought us together. Without our children, we would have never known that love and grief can run so deep. There's a wall that comes down when you meet someone who can truly say, I know your pain. Someone who gets how hard those initial days are. The holidays, the anniversaries, the anxiety, the secondary losses, and the day-to-day struggles. Parent Care families have prayed with me, over me, and for me when I needed them most. They sat with me when I didn't have the words to express just how much my heart was hurting. They listened as I shared how we chose our son's name, the plans and excitement we had for his life, how we decorated his nursery, and the scripture we have for his grave marker. They were there for me through the additional losses we had, and finally another full-term pregnancy that was riddled with fear and anxiety. Parent Care gave me the gift of practice in sharing my son's story. Being able to talk about Griffin easily and naturally has been essential in going forward, knowing that I have not fully lost him, and now I live life for both of us. I can imagine Griffin saying, Mommy, I know this is hard for you, but do you see all of these people that God put in your life to help you through? Aren't they amazing? This love is just a glimpse of heaven. There is no doubt that love is stronger than death. Please know that as you remember your baby today, I will be remembering him or her with you. Even though we may not know each other personally, we are all connected through our love for our children. Your child is absolutely irreplaceable, and nothing will fill the void that your child left. But my prayer is that the love and pain you've carried for your child will be woven into every thread of your being. It will fuel you to do things that you never dreamed you could do. You will live life for both you and your child, and it will be hard, but it will also be beautiful. I know without a doubt that our babies are proud that we are still standing with courage and love as we honor them.
Good evening. My name is Mary Kate Morgan. I am a certified child life specialist, primarily in the pediatric intensive care unit and the general pediatric floor. My job as a child life specialist is to help families and patients cope with being in the hospital. Part of that role involves supporting families during some of the saddest and hardest days of their lives. So when I was asked to speak tonight, I had to think, what do you say to a family that has lost their child? There is nothing that I can say tonight that will bring back the precious children we have lost. But I hope my words will bring you some peace and comfort. What I want to tell you tonight is this: the memory and legacy of your child will never be erased from the minds of our nurses, the doctors, the respiratory therapist, the physical, occupational, and speech therapist, the social workers, the environmental service employees, the transport teams, the child life specialist, the chaplains, and all of the other healthcare heroes. We remember your children each and every day. Every time I pull out our high chair for a patient, I'm reminded of the sweet child that grinned from ear to ear each time he sat in that same chair. Every time I pass a Mack truck on the highway, I wonder if the driver is the father of another child whose family we grew to know so well. Every time I see a baseball, I think of the bond I witnessed between a particular patient and his father. Every time I put my crazy socks on in the morning, I think of the patient who also shared a love for crazy socks. I think of your children when I hear certain songs, watch certain movies, and read certain books. And I know I'm not the only one. I know this because I hear our healthcare heroes speaking of your children in an honorable way every day. Your child's legacy lives on in the hearts of our healthcare heroes. Grief is defined as a cause of deep sadness. I spoke with a mom recently when she was picking up a memory item I had created for her. I asked her how she was doing, and she simply said, "Mornings are hard." I often wonder how our families cope after losing a child or infant. Maybe for some, mornings are hard, or maybe others find evenings are the hardest, or maybe bedtime is the most painful, or maybe Sunday afternoons, or maybe grief comes at random times without any warning. Grief is a process that is different for each family. When a child or infant dies, the love for that child or infant does not die, it carries on forever. A family is left with all of the love and must learn a new way to carry on that love, even through unbearable pain and loss. While we cannot begin to know the depth of your grief and sadness, each of us mourns the death of your child with you. We remember each name and each circumstance, and remember not only your heartache, but also the joyful stories that you shared with your child or infant, shared about your child or infant. We hope that you will hold the care and the kindness we felt for your child and for your family close to you. And we hope that it will help you when you are grieving. Please find solace in knowing that your child's legacy will live on in the hearts of all of our healthcare heroes and in the halls of WakeMed, and also know that the care and the love for them will be carried out into the world. Your child has made a difference in so many lives, forever, in big and subtle ways. Lastly, a verse by Helen Keller. What we once enjoyed and deeply loved, we can never lose. For all that we love deeply becomes part of us.
Hello, my name is Vanetta Dunn, and I'd like to share a poem. A Parent's Grief. You ask me how I'm feeling, but do you really want to know? The moment I try telling you, you say you have to go. How can I tell you what it's been like for me? I'm haunted and I am broken by things you do not see. You ask me how I'm holding up, but do you really care? The moment I start to speak my heart, you start squirming in your chair. Because I am so lonely, you see friends no longer come around. So I take the words I want to say and quietly choke them down. Everyone avoids me now. I guess they don't know what to say. They told me I'll be there for you and turned and walked away. Call me if you need me. That's what everybody said. But how can I call and scream into the phone, my God, my child is dead? No one will let me say the words I need to say. Why does a parent's grief scare everyone anyway? I am tired of pretending. My heart hammers in my chest. I say things to make you comfortable, but my soul finds no rest. How can I tell you things that are too sad to be told? Of the helplessness of holding a child who in your arms grows cold. Maybe you can tell me, how should one behave who's had to follow their child's casket, watched it perched over a grave? You cannot imagine what it was like for me that day, to place a final kiss upon that box and have to turn and walk away. If you really love me, and I believe you do, if you really want to help me, here is what I need from you. Sit down beside me. Reach out and take my hand. Say, my friend, I've come to listen. I want to understand. Just hold my hand and listen. That's all you need to do. And if by chance I shed a tear, it's all right if you do too. And I swear that I'll remember till the day I'm very old, the friend who sat and held my hand and let me bare my soul. Adaptation of Kelly Cummings' poem. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Kenyatta Brown, and I'll be singing It's Quiet Uptown. There are moments where the words don't reach. There is suffering too terrible to name. You hold your child as tight as you can, then push away the unimaginable. The moments when you're in so deep, feels easier to just to swim down. And so you move uptown and learn to live with the unimaginable. I spend hours in the garden. I walk along to the store, and it's quiet uptown. I never liked the quiet before. I take the children to church on Sunday, a sign of the cross at the door, and I pray that never used to happen before. Look at where we are. Look at where we started. Look around, look around. They're going through the unimaginable. They're going through the unimaginable. There are moments when the words don't reach. There is suffering too terrible to name. You hold your child as tight as you can, then push away the unimaginable. The moments when you're in so deep, feels easier just to swim down, and then you move uptown, 'cause you're living with the unimaginable. I spend hours in the garden. I walk along to the store, and it's quiet uptown. I never liked the quiet before. I take the children to church on Sunday, a sign of the cross at the door, and I pray that never used to happen before. Look around, look around. Look at where we are. Look at where we started. If I can trade my life for yours, I would. Look around, look around. It's quiet uptown. They're dealing with the unimaginable. They're dealing with the unimaginable.
Good evening.
My name is Tina Morris Anderson, and I am a staff chaplain at WakeMed Raleigh. We are here this evening to remember those we loved who have died. We are not alone in our grief, our tears, and our memories. We reach out to one another with love, with understanding, and with hope. At this time, we will light candles in remembrance of our children who are no longer with us. As we light these candles, let us do so with gratitude for their memory. As we light the flames of remembrance, let these tiny lights also represent our own rebirth and renewal as we seek meaning in life without those we loved, as we strive for joy, peace, and happiness, as we look to the future's promise with our surviving loved ones and share our lives. If you are participating from home, we invite you to speak aloud the names of your children as the candles are lit.
Haywood Griffin Alexander Jr.
Providence Faye Orsman.
May the memories of your children continue to glow as bright as the flames of these candles. We wish you peace.
Good evening. My name is Monica Young, and I am the Advanced Care Planning Program Coordinator for WakeMed.
Buenas tardes, me llamo Sara Robb-Scott. Soy el coordinador del programa de duelo en WakeMed.
Please join me in the responsive tribute at the bottom of your program. I will read the plain text and invite you to respond by reading the bold text. We remember them.
Por favor, únense a nosotros en el tributo responsivo en la parte inferior de su programa. Leeré el texto sin formato y les invitaré a responder leyendo el texto en negrita. Los recordamos.
In the rising of the sun and its going down, we remember them.
En la salida del sol y su puesta, los recordamos.
In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of the winter, we remember them.
En el soplo del viento y en el frío del invierno, los recordamos.
In the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of the spring, we remember them.
En la apertura de los brotes y en el renacimiento de la primavera, los recordamos.
In the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of the summer, we remember them.
En el azul de los cielos y en el calor del verano, los recordamos.
In the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them.
Al susurrar de las hojas y en la belleza del otoño, los recordamos.
In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them.
A principios de año y cuando termina, los recordamos.
When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them.
Cuando estamos cansados y necesitamos fuerza, los recordamos.
When we are lost and sick of heart, we remember them.
Cuando estamos perdidos y enfermos de corazón, los recordamos.
When we have joys and special celebrations we yearn to share, we remember them.
Cuando tenemos alegrías y celebraciones especiales que anhelamos compartir, los recordamos.
So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are part of us. We remember them.
Mientras vivamos, ellos también vivirán porque son parte de nosotros. Los recordamos.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Gilmore, and I'm the Director of Spiritual Care here at WakeMed. On behalf of WakeMed Health and Hospitals, I want to thank you for your presence tonight at our Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Service. There's many people I would like to thank for tonight's service, many people who helped make this event possible. First, I want to thank our President and CEO, Donald Gensig, thank our Senior Vice President, Valerie Barlow, the entire staff on all of our children's units, the NICU and the PICU, Child Life, all of our medical personnel, including the doctors and nurses. I want to thank the WakeMed Foundation, thank Kristen Kelly in the Office of Marketing and Communications. I want to thank Sara Robb-Scott for organizing tonight's program and for all those who participated tonight. I want to give a special thanks to Wyatt and to Jennifer, to Providence and to Griffin, to you and to your child. Thank you for inviting us into this precious moment as you remember them. You remain in our hearts. Thank you and good night.